Preparations are underway for the confirmation hearings for President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. The Senate Judiciary Committee expected to open the hearings on Tuesday. Several GOP senators have reportedly been helping Kavanaugh prep in mock hearings, including Lindsey Graham, Rob Portman, and Orrin Hatch, who is a former Judiciary Committee chairman. Democrats are expected to call John Dean to testify. He was the White House counsel during President Nixon's Watergate scandal and is expected to testify about Kavanaugh's views on presidential power and executive privilege. So we will be covering this on Tuesday as it happens.
I think there's something going on Tuesday, right?
I've heard that. Chris, what do you make of all of this? I kind of think you look at the numbers he's getting through.
Yeah. John Dean, what a Hail Mary. I mean, come on.
I don't know.
And that's,
I've been enjoying John Dean on Twitter lately myself.
We'll see how far we can throw the ball, and maybe you can catch it at the end of the game.
But
no, he's going to be. Look, Brett Kavanaugh is going to be confirmed. This is political theater at this point, and a hope on the left that maybe some sort of silver bullet or massive gaffe will occur. But, we put out numbers last week. You quoted some really interesting numbers before, in which we looked at the 10 Trump Democrat seats in which Democrats are running for re-election. And what we found is this is the only really theater, or the only question left right now is what red state Democrats vote for his confirmation. Because if you have a John Tester, a Heidi Heidkamp, a Claire McCaskill, a Joe Donnelly, a Joe Manchin who vote against his confirmation, they could potentially be costing themselves their re-election.
Three of them did vote for Neil Gorsuch.
They did.
It was Heitkamp, Donnelly, and Manchin.
Right.
But I'm curious,
so what do they do here? What does McCaskill
numbers
do? What does Tester do? And if not, I think you can say goodbye to him.
I think that we can probably just have those three take it again, and the others can vote against. But I'm curious, as you bring up the numbers here, there were interesting numbers about Susan Collins, who's obviously a Republican, but whose voters don't want her to vote for Kavanaugh. Well, do you think that this actually has any effect on Republicans? She's one of the only
she's not up for re-election, and neither is Alaska with Murkowski, thank you. I was having trouble putting that together. You think she won through write-in. I should be able to come up with their name, right? But from a standpoint of whether or not it impacts those questions which they were asked were all made around social issues specific to Kavanaugh, not about him and his qualifications. And I think that's a completely dishonest way to test what's going on here. Brett Kavanaugh, by all accounts, is a qualified jurist and will be confirmed to the Supreme Court. So those who vote against him do so at their own peril.
There's just stall tactics. I mean, they keep calling for more and more documents. I guess they've...
Well, you wanted all of Elena Kagan's documents.
But I think he's already...
90 votes? I mean, come on. This isn't, the level of partisanship here is just unprecedented.
It is. It's pretty silly. And also, I think it's kind of funny that they asked for all these emails and they uncovered these emails. And as they uncover them, they find out that the biggest crime that he's committed is that he stays at the office really late and his bosses are actually admonishing him to, go home, don't work so
he
hard.
Likes baseball too much.
I mean, he watched baseball too much. I mean, it's so silly. This guy's clearly qualified. He's clearly going to get passed. I wish we could just get over all the
I want them to drag it out till November so we can have the vote right before Election Day. Don't speed it up.
That's true. That's a good point. Politically, that's a good point.
Speaking of November, and we hit this earlier, the reason that President Trump is even publicly saying Jeff Sessions isn't going anywhere until at least after the midterms is because of the importance of getting Brett Kavanaugh onto the Supreme Court. This is one of the most critical things that his voters stepped up and got behind him in 2016.
And it unites the never-Trumpers and the pro-Trumpers within the party. It's a very unifying topic.
And I think, Jessica, you had mentioned, the documents, and Democrats are sort of kicking and screaming, I think in part because they know that this is happening. It's sort of a done deal unless he implodes or something during the confirmation hearings. But look, he's had over 300 opinions. A lot of this information is already out in the public sphere. So I think that argument is kind of weak. The national numbers don't look good for him. But Chris, as you pointed out, what is really important is digging into those Democrats who are going to feel the pressure to have to vote for him. So you mentioned those 10 Democrats. What are you seeing in those red states, and how much pressure do you think a Manchin or a Heidi Heidkamp or a Donnelly are feeling right now?
I think they're under a lot of pressure, and it is the interesting aspect, as Dagan's put earlier, I think this is really key, is when we look at why one of the reasons Donald Trump won in 2016, and there are a myriad of them, but it was because of the Supreme Court. There's no question that brought a lot of voters out that might not have otherwise voted. I mean, evangelical vote in 2016 was up from 2008, up from 2012. It was at 2004 levels, and I think that is the key, because Republicans are going to pick up seats in the Senate. The question is at this point, do they lose seats in the House? Do they hold the House? Is it enough to hold the House? And this is the type of issue that is a motivational to the Republican base, that 2016 voter, and 2018 is going to be a turnout election, and Kavanaugh and the Supreme Court is a turnout issue.
And they're going to try and motivate on the left. The Democrats motivate their base by grilling him not just on Roe v. Wade and asking him questions about abortions, but also about the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms in this country, the First Amendment, given what President Trump has said about the press, you name it, they're going to walk their way through the Bill of Rights.
It's a pretty important job, and it's a lifetime appointment. So I think that we can have a few moments, and we will be right back.